When you settle, you ruin the movie. Yeah, you heard me. Your life is a movie and you are the author. Your life is a movie and you are the director. Life is a movie. And you need to edit some scenes out. The pen is in your hand, my friend, and you're writing your very own personal movie. And I believe the good guy wins in the end. I believe the good woman wins in the end. I believe that you will win in the end as long as you don't settle. When you settle, you ruin the finale. When you settle, you ruin the final scene. We are all tuned into your movie. We got our popcorn ready, waiting for your grand finale. How is your movie going to end? As long as there is breath in your body, there is a chance. Sometimes discouragement happens. Sometimes fatigue happens. But one thing I know about life, when you get tired, you gotta wait for that second wind. When that second wind kicks in, whoa, you might be tired right now, but that second wind is kicking in. I came here right now today to be your second wind, and don't you ever settle. Why? Because I don't want you to have regrets. And if you can hear me, just start hitting. I see you guys are saying no sound, no sound. I got you, got you, got you. So hopefully you can hear me now. Just start hitting that like button so I can see that you actually hear me. And we're good. Those on the YouTube side. So hopefully I've seen a few lights come up. So you guys are saying you should be able to hear now. My apologies. I thought I had all of that together. And so, yeah. Human error comes through, you know. There we go, you know, human error. We thought I had all that taken care of. It's like, oh, there we go. But all right. Anyways, let me just start all over again. It's great to see each of you on today. I really appreciate you hanging out with us on this evening for another Kingdom Conversations. I know we have had a plethora of guests throughout this pandemic for our Kingdom Conversations. And it's been extraordinary to see, you know, the background, the wealth of information that they bring to the table, how they have, you know, inspired us and helped us, and kind of just given us a new perspective about life, and kind of helped us to reinvent ourselves and put us on a new path and to a better person. So we're really grateful for each person, what they have and what they bring to the table. Tonight's guest is no different. You guys are going to be super blessed by our guest tonight. And so I've been excited about the opportunity to be able to bring her on and to share. Now, you know, every year at the church, from usually around Memorial Day, yes, from Memorial Day, just to a little bit after Labor Day. Well, I think it actually ends, if I'm mistaken, I think it actually ends the last day of fall. We do our Steps Challenge every year. And we're always trying to make sure we're getting our body in motion, we're moving, all that wonderful stuff. And so today, We have Courtney Robinson. She's going to be sharing about health, nutrition. You don't want to miss this, and so this is extremely important for your life, for your well-being, for your overall happiness, all that. And so make sure you tune in today. So here's what we want to do: to be a blessing and a benefit to all of our friends and families, because we want everyone to be able to hear this kind of talk. I want to need you right now. Don't be selfish. Hit that share button. Please, come on. Do it right now. Hit that share button. What it does, it allows what we're talking about to be shared on all other platforms from yours and anyone else who would tune in. And then we need you to make sure that you're commenting. Make sure you hit like, all that stuff, and say something while we're talking. The more you interact, the more you work with the algorithms of social media. While you're working with those algorithms, what it does, it pushes our feed up to the top of all of those the news feeds that we have. And so we need you interact, talk, say something. I really appreciate that. Those of you on the YouTube side, hey guys, if you have not subscribed to our channel as of yet, make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate you subscribing. Talk to us, say hello, all that wonderful stuff. We really appreciate each one of you. And so I see a number of you saying good evening and praise the Lord and grace and peace. So good evening, grace and peace. Praise the Lord. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is great to be with you on today. Well, I am, again, I'm delighted to be able to have our guests, and I've kind of talked enough to kind of filibuster a chance to give you all a chance to get settled and prepare yourselves for our kingdom conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I always say this all the time. And I wish I had some music in the background, to play some drums or the organ and that's the hype music after our guests come on. But it's just me. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people, friends, I am pleased today to be able to welcome as our guest Courtney Robinson. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us on tonight. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to share with us. And you guys are going to be blessed by Courtney. So, Courtney, thank you for sharing with us on tonight. I got a chance, as you can find out, I got a chance to be introduced to Courtney through my sister, Dr. Lanika Wright, and so she made the connection, and so I'm certainly grateful to have met Courtney. I immediately told Lanika, yeah, I know why you guys are friends. I can tell why you guys are friends. And so just the her being my sister, similar personality, it's like, yeah, I got it. I quickly picked up on why you all are friends. So Courtney, thank you for sharing with us on today. You may want to say hello to the listening audience or anyone who must be out there, and so I'll give you a chance to do that now.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and share some nutrition information with you. And LaMont is right. Lanika is one of my favorite people. So I would do anything for her.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us on today. So probably almost everyone on this platform, but I guess with the exception of if Lanika and Marion are watching, maybe some of those, but everyone else, they don't know who you are. And so I'm sure that they would like to kind of get an idea as to, who you are. And people are saying hello to you, by the way, Courtney. They're saying they're saying hello to you. All right. So tell us about your background, and then what led you to this particular career choice.
Okay. Well, I grew up with all intentions of being a veterinarian. That was my goal. I went to college with that intention. And then, as most people do, you get a job working in a field close to what you want to do and realize that is not what you want to do with your life. And that's exactly what I did. I worked at a veterinarian hospital and quickly learned that was not what I was going to do. And so I started my journey at East Carolina University, actually as a chemistry major. And when I got to my last semester and all my peers were venturing into medical school and dental school, I thought, I'm looking for a less invasive way to work with folks. I'm not really ready to be that in depth. So I thought about what I was interested in. And like a lot of college students, health and eating healthy and exercise is something you start to discover when you're in school. And so I thought, I'm going to change my major to nutrition. And the rest was kind of history at that point. I went on to get my degree in nutrition. We have to do an internship. So I did an internship with the School of Medicine at Brody. And then I got my master's. And while I was getting my master's, I was actually lucky enough to be a graduate assistant at Student Health on campus. And that actually ended up becoming my first job. I worked there for almost 10 years as a clinical dietitian. And I was very sad to leave, but I got an opportunity about 4 years ago to switch to the faculty side and teach in our nutrition department. And so that was a 9-month position. My son was just getting ready to start kindergarten, and the idea of having, a freer summer home with him just seemed like a dream. So I snagged that opportunity pretty quickly. But working at Student Health was so wonderful for me because it led me to my 2 specialty areas, which are really sports nutrition and eating disorder counseling. I got a lot of experience working with students, and I also got to work with ECU athletics. And so those are really my 2 areas of specialty. And I'm lucky enough to continue and have been able to continue to work with athletes and also do counseling on the side of teaching, working with eating disorder patients.
Wow, that's awesome. So you actually do counseling for people with eating disorders too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, what is considered normal eating? Because we have all these theories and all these concepts
Right.
out there. So, what's considered normal eating?
Well, the definition that I use is actually based on a book. There's a book called Intuitive Eating. It was written by 2 dietitians, and they wrote the book because they wrote it in the late 90s, I think. A lot of patients were being sent to them for weight management, and they just realized that all those folks kept coming back because they weren't really able to keep off the amount of weight when they would put them on very rigid and strict diets. So they started to look at the research, behind dieting, and they came up with this idea that is really just an innate quality that we all have, which is eating when you're physically hungry and stopping when you're satisfied. So that's normal eating. Like I said, we also call it intuitive eating. But I really try to remind people, I think like my word of the century with nutrition, and I guess maybe with any science, is nuance, where you can't let it be too black and white. You've really got to read between the lines and make sure that people understand that we are lucky enough to eat for other reasons than hunger. And that's okay. Food is a pleasurable, fun experience. And sometimes that's all it has to be. And people shouldn't be ashamed of that. I always remind people, what are the 2 things we do at funerals and weddings? We eat, we feed people because that's love. And so that's what I like about that definition of normal eating is at the basis, it is eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. But it's also eating for times because the food just tastes so good and you want more. And on the flip side of it, sometimes it's stopping early because it just isn't worth it and it didn't taste as good, So I always remind people to don't let normal eating become a hunger fullness diet either. Allow yourself the nuance and the grace of life, and that you're not always going to have time to eat when you're hungry or eat until you're full or things, life comes up. But if we can teach people to at least get in tune with those hunger and fullness cues, then it helps your body to self-regulate and sort of manage your weight in a way that you don't have to manipulate or work so hard to do.
That's good. So, one of my takeaways from that is, that eating is fun and pleasurable. So
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
yeah, Yeah, so there's some food that, I mean, it's just great. Like, it tastes wonderful in your mouth. You're like, oh, this is great. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. We want people to enjoy food. I think that's the fun thing of, of eating is that you enjoy what you're eating.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So now, I love learning. Just absolutely love learning, and so I've realized that DNA needs protein, and
Mhm.
it's really important that we get protein every day. Can you talk to us about why we need protein and how much is actually necessary for each day?
Sure. The funny thing about protein is most of the time, if I were to say to somebody, tell me why protein is important, most people would go, muscle, right? That's really all we think about. But you're right, there's so many other reasons. And that's one thing I really try to teach my students is protein does so many functions in the body. For example, fluid balance isn't possible in your body without protein. We can't make a lot of hormones in the body are made out of protein. All the little enzymes in your body that speed up reactions and basically make them happen fast enough so that we can stay alive, they're all protein. Antibodies are protein, and we know how important antibodies are these days. And so, for regular healthy immunity, you need protein. So there's all these functions, including if you want to put on some muscle mass, it's very important for that too. But yeah, I remind people that, it's very important for other reasons. And so, we definitely want to make sure people are consuming it daily. In terms of how much you need, so originally when some studies were done to say how much protein do folks need, we came up with a number. It's our RDA, sort of this value of how much people are supposed to get, and it's 0.8 grams per kilogram. So and if anybody kind of wants to figure out what that would be for themselves, you just divide your weight by 2.2 and that will give you kilograms. And then you just multiply. So to give you an example, a person that's 150 pounds, that's about 55 grams of protein a day. Now when you think about 55 grams a day, and maybe I just work with a lot of athletes that eat a ton of protein, but I don't really think that that's very much. I think people might be surprised that the RDA is not higher. But the thing to keep in mind is a lot of those studies were done in sedentary populations, and we don't want people to not be physically active. So for a person that is a recreational exerciser, a little bit more, maybe say 1 gram per kilogram is good. And then for athletes, it could go all the way up to 2 grams per kilogram based on if they're an endurance athlete or they're a strength trained athlete. And I normally tell people, counting things for some people is just not a great thing. I know that working with eating disorders. So I usually tell people, if you're concerned about your protein, try to get 20, 30 grams at a meal. Try to shoot for 10 or 15 if you're more of a snacker. And by the end of the day, you'll have plenty. You'll have enough.
That's some good stuff. Good, good. One of my shows that I like on Discovery Channel is Naked and Afraid, and one of the things that I always say on there is like, hey, we need protein. We need protein.
Right. Yeah.
We're in day 3. We have no protein. So I think that's really
Mhm.
important. Sometimes we kind of miss the importance of that. So you are an advocate, and I've been waiting to ask you this question. You're an advocate of healthy at any size. So
Mhm.
what's actually meant by that concept, and what also is a healthy BMI?
Okay. So HAES is a short form. It's the acronym is health at every size. And basically it's at the foundation, it's really a social justice movement. It's this idea that we don't want people to have different experiences in the medical community solely based on their body size. And so, health at every size it's sort of this idea that we want to challenge medical professionals, myself included, to move away from this more sort of weight-centric model where we put weight at the forefront and we say, if you're over a certain weight, that means you're destined for, poor health. We know that's just not true anymore. And moving people into more of a weight inclusive model where we celebrate body diversity and that everyone's not really made to fit into this narrow range of health just based on what their body looks like. And so some of the tenets of health at every size are, just eating for well-being. They follow kind of that intuitive eating model, moving your body in a way that you enjoy moving it. So it's more joyful movement than, oh, I have to exercise kind of deal, where it's just another chore. Respect, like I said, for folks when they go to the doctor, to make sure they don't feel like they're being discriminated against, or they don't feel like they're kind of a victim of weight stigma. And then just like I said, weight inclusiveness, where we look at people and we appreciate that their that bodies are different, and that some people will make positive changes, make healthy behavior changes, and they will lose a certain amount of weight, and other people might not. And those people can still just remain the way they are with those healthy choices and the behavior changes they've made. And we don't have to focus so much on making them lose weight. And go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's really good, and I'm pretty sure that there are people who are watching right now who are extremely grateful for what they were like, yes, that's great. So it seems so liberating and vastly different from what we've been hearing from people. So thank you for sharing that. I just want to kind of insert that. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. And yeah, that's one of my goals as a dietitian. I just know so many people that they don't go to the doctor because they don't want to be weighed. And I generally advocate for my patients. There's actually a little sort of paper that a dietitian has made up, because you don't actually have to be weighed when you go to the doctor. There's only, a few health reasons why. There's very few medications these days that are based off your weight. And so if nothing else, I'll tell my patients, just step on backwards. The doctor doesn't have to share that number with you. They don't have to discuss it with you, because sometimes it comes off really shameful, and then that patient doesn't go back, and they might miss, some sort of health marker, or they might miss something that they needed because they're just afraid to go back to their doctor solely based on not wanting to sort of talk about weight. So I do think it's an important thing, so that people, aren't afraid to go to their doctors, because a lot of times they just don't want to talk about their weight.
For those who are listening, they may not understand what BMI
Right.
means. So what is it, and then also what's a healthy BMI as well?
So BMI, which stands for body mass index, it's an indicator. Basically, at the root of it, it is just really your weight divided by your height squared. That's really what it is. So it takes your weight and your height into account. We get a number. In terms of the BMI range, you are healthy. So they say if you are 18.5 to 24.9, that's considered a normal BMI. So if you're less than 18.5, you're considered underweight. And if you're over 24.9, you're considered overweight. And then it goes up to classes of obesity. However, a lot of people have criticized BMI over the years. One of the reasons why is because, again, it is weight and height, so it's not going to take your body composition. So a few years ago, there was a lot of athletes that came out and said, if I use BMI, I'm overweight or obese because I have so much lean body mass that lean body mass weighs more than fat. So they're going to be heavier on the scale, which is going to kind of skew that data for the BMI, and it puts them into, not normal when really they're an athlete and we know they're in great shape. Also, if you've got any folks that are a little short, that can skew the data too. So that can kind of throw off their BMI. So the big thing that we try to tell folks about BMI is that if they go somewhere and someone says, this is your BMI, we want to make sure that they're explaining to that person that that is one value of many that are used to, help someone figure out kind of where they are. If you go to the doctor and they're not also talking about your labs and whether you are physically active and maybe sending you to a dietitian to evaluate how you're eating, then I would suggest finding another doctor, because it's not the best marker. And just a little trivia for folks, the reason that a lot of dietitians don't like BMI is because it was actually created by a mathematician, not a medical doctor, and it was never intended to be used the way that we use it in a clinical setting. So it's interesting to know its history and how its purpose wasn't actually meant for the way it's used in medical settings these days.
That's really good to know. Wow, I didn't know that. That's really good to know. So let me ask you this: so that that person who is struggling, because since you do counseling for people with eating disorders, maybe there's someone who's listening right now, and they're kind of looking at themselves in the mirror. They don't like the way that they look. They have maybe it's compulsive eating. I'm not really sure all, but what would you say to that person right now? Because I'm sure someone's listening and they've been encouraged by what you said, but they just kind of need something to kind of motivate them to hone in on what you're saying and say, okay, yeah, I can do this too.
Well, normally what I'd say to folks, if they feel like they sort of know that their relationship with food is not healthy, the first thing I say is that everything that you're feeling, every fear that you have, any emotions you have about it is 100% valid, because a lot of people will kind of shrug folks off and say, oh, don't worry about, something. If someone is, let's say, restricting their intake and they're telling people, I don't like my body, and someone sees that person as just in a normal body, they're not, recognizing that internal struggle. So the first thing I would say is everything you're feeling, everything, you fear is absolutely valid. And the next thing I would say is, find a dietitian and a therapist to create a team for you to work with. And specifically, if there's a person that feels like they're struggling with compulsive eating or what we call binge eating, it's so important to work with a therapist, because they help you reduce that shame that often comes with that behavior and lets you see that you have no reason to feel shameful about that. We often say, if you feel, guilty about something, it's normally because you did something bad. And food, unless you stole it, you didn't do anything bad when you ate it, right? So we don't want people to feel like they, did something terribly bad, or even what we call shame, which is really where you feel like you are bad because you are engaging in that behavior. We want people to recognize it's normal. It's sometimes a coping mechanism, and that's, in a way, it's kind of saying thank you to your body for trying to do a coping strategy that keeps you safe. That's what your body does. And so allowing people to recognize it's okay and it's a normal behavior, and that we just, want people to reach out and create a treatment team for themselves.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. You've been talking about food and the enjoyment of food, and so there are those who feel like I've got to you got to be vegan, or vegetarian, or pescatarian, or etc. Is this the only healthy diet to have?
Absolutely not. If people like meat, they can absolutely eat meat. We know that a plant-based diet is healthy, right? But we also know that consuming meat in moderation and consuming leaner cuts of meat are perfectly fine, and to be honest, just so all the listeners kind of know, so pescatarian would be a person that does not eat meat, but they eat fish. Vegetarian would be typically no meat, and then sometimes they eat dairy and they'll eat eggs, or they may exclude one of those. And then a vegan is no animal products, so they don't eat meat or eggs or dairy. They also don't consume honey, or they don't consume things like Jell-O, because Jell-O has gelatin in it, and that's from animals. And I would say vegans also probably a lot of vegans live the full lifestyle. They don't consume products either like wear leather or things like that. So they really kind of live that lifestyle. But I always remind people that if you choose to go vegetarian or vegan, that it's about the intention, right? Is it because you're concerned about the environment, or you have empathy for the animals, or you're worried about your health? Well, then going and talking to a dietitian and looking at your intake and saying, you know what, there's a way, if you do like meat, to incorporate into your diet and not have to worry about your health. And I think also sometimes people are very all or nothing. So it's like, I'm going to stop cold turkey. I'm not going to eat any meat at all. And then it backfires and they're all back to where they started. So I remind people that even having one meatless meal a week has such an impact on the environment. There's a website called Meatless Monday, and that's basically what they kind of promote, and they offer vegetarian recipes. And also it's let's face it, meat's expensive. It's probably the most expensive thing we put in our grocery cart. And so if you're subbing out meat for beans or something like that once a week, you're probably saving yourself a little bit of money too. But it's not necessary. It's just about whether you feel like this works for me. I've met people that they love being a vegetarian, and I've met people that have literally been sick being a vegan, and they need to eat in a different way. And so it's really about, how do you feel? How does it make you feel? And again, if you have any of those personal sort of intentions, such as, like I said, the animals or the environment.
I think that someone's asking, is there a Meatless Monday site or website?
Yeah, if you Google Meatless Monday, the website will pop up.
Gotcha.
And also another really wonderful, they can Google the Vegetarian Resource Group. That's an excellent site too. And they're really good about going through sort of all the vitamins and minerals that, when you remove meat, where you would find those in non-meat products. So that's a really good website too.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So there is also out there, people often talk about, eating according to your blood type. Some maybe, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Others maybe it's be a new concept for them. Is there any benefit to that? Should we be eating according to our blood type? What should we be doing?
Well, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, you don't have to. There's really no evidence. And I would say the funny thing is, when I follow other medical providers or dietitians on social media platforms and they do Q&As, that's always a question of eating for your blood type, because there's some books out there and some of them have been written by doctors, but the evidence is just not there. And that's not an evidence-based practice that as a dietitian I would recommend that someone follow.
That's simple enough. So yeah, good.
Yep.
So tell us this. There are superfoods, and I'm pretty sure that we need it. I'm sure you'll explain. So are they necessary? What are they? Do we need them? Do we not need them? How do we incorporate these superfoods in our diet? And of course, then if we need them, what are they actually doing for us? What benefit do we gain?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know where the term superfood came from. I don't know if there's like a a definition that's consistent among everyone. But I think what most of the time when people think superfoods, they think, or at least I do, we think something that's very nutrient dense, right? And sometimes in the past, I've seen articles that have said these are the top 10 superfoods. And if people run through those lists, you will see fruits and vegetables. You will see typically some sort of, or maybe various sources of healthy fat. So you'll often see salmon, you'll see avocado, you may see nuts and seeds. There's usually a whole grain of some sort, maybe oatmeal is on there sometimes. So I would say that I don't want people to put certain fruits and vegetables or certain sources of healthy fats on a pedestal because, for example, a lot of people really stress out because kale is often on those lists and people hate kale. There's a very small amount of people that really want to eat kale. And so I tell folks, fine, eat spinach. It's all a leafy green. It's all the same. You don't have to look at those foods and say, well, this list said I have to eat salmon when you've got tuna over here that's got the same omega-3s. So I think if we just, we think about what those foods have in them, which is fiber, antioxidants, lots of vitamins and minerals, we can find that in any fruit or vegetable, any healthy whole grain, any whole grain source, and any sort of healthy fat out there. So I just, again, I think it's almost sort of trendy, like we pick sort of what might be a superfood. But yeah, really, if people are eating just fruits and vegetables, whole grains, healthy sources of fats, that, they're all super. They're all going to give you the same stuff.
Good. That's good. I actually like kale myself. I do understand that raw kale sometimes can be a little tough to chew.
Yeah, if you cook it, if I cook it, I do enjoy it. But raw kale in a salad, I'm gonna pass, and I'm gonna eat some romaine or some spinach, I think.
Yes, exactly. Now, there are those who they've seen, the dark chocolate as a superfood. So we're okay to eat.
Right. Yeah. Dark chocolate is full of antioxidants. Very good for you. We can eat that. That's great. Yeah.
I'm sure that there were others like, don't take my dark chocolate away because
right. Of course not. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then the other thing that people talk about is brain food, and we need brain food. So what is it? Is it necessary? Why not? If it is, then what benefit are we getting from what has been termed as brain food?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that when people say brain food, they're probably talking a lot about fat because your brain is actually a very fatty organ. It's about 60% fat. And so we do need, obviously, you need fatty acids to make sure that you are just maintaining the health of your brain and the integrity of your brain. But, there's some research out there that says, well, what about decreasing my risk of some of those degenerative diseases like Parkinson's or dementia? And then there's lots of research out there now showing, well, maybe some of these fatty acids are good for decreasing the risk of depression and that sort of thing. And so that's absolutely true. But because we need these fatty acids anyway, we actually have two essential fatty acids. One is an omega-6 and one is an omega-3. And those are where our bodies can't make them. They're essential. So we have to eat them. Now, omega-6 is in a few more things. Most people get plenty. We don't have to worry too much about it. But omega-3, that's the one that I feel like people probably hear a little bit more about. And they probably heard it in terms of, benefiting your cardiovascular system and stuff like that. So omega-3 fatty acids are the ones we care about the most are two, and they're called EPA and DHA. So DHA is really, really important for the brain, and you find those mainly in fatty fish. So salmon, tuna, mackerel, sardines, and some people are like, That's a no for me. I'm not eating those, I'm not eating the fish. So if you don't like fish, you've got some other alternatives. There are some plant sources. Walnuts are the highest plant source of omega-3s. And then if people use any sort of seeds, so flax seeds, chia seeds, and then leafy greens have some omega-3s in there. So we have to eat those because we don't make them. And the rule of thumb is if people are willing to, we'd like them to eat those fatty fish sources about 1 to 2 times a week. And we remind folks, look, you don't have to go pay for some expensive tuna fillet. A pouch of tuna or a can of tuna works just fine to get those omega-3s in there. But yeah, I mean, we need them for the brain. And I would say, those are our major brain foods.
So you said 1 to 2 times a
1 to
week?
2 times a week. Yeah. So not too much.
Yeah, that's excellent. So there's also been a lot of discussion on intermittent fasting and the benefits of intermittent fasting. So is it something that we should be implementing into our lives? What are the pros? What are the cons of it?
So there's a few definitions of what intermittent fasting actually is, but I think the most common is the kind of 12 to 16-hour fast. So you're sort of expanding that window where you're not eating. So you cut yourself off at a certain time at night, and then you go that full window. So I think some of the proposed benefits have been, in the past, I think there's been sort of this association between maybe fasting and just longevity in general. But more recently, I think the two things that the studies have looked at recently are blood sugar or blood glucose control. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, weight loss. So I will say this, most of the studies are small, very, very small sample sizes, very specific, like it might be all males or all folks with type 2 diabetes. So we can't really take that information and kind of implement it into the general population. But I think for most people, they think I need to be doing this to sort of be healthy and or lose weight. And the answer to that is no, you don't. You don't have to do it. And that's really what the evidence shows is it's not something that is necessary. It's not superior to any other type of eating style. And the con would be, there's a lot of folks that are hungry when they get up in the morning, and how miserable to have to ignore that hunger until 12 o'clock or 1 in the afternoon. And my concern is, what about those folks that do have diabetes and they're letting their blood glucose get super low because they think it's, giving them a benefit, when in the long run, it's just creating more instability, because then they're going to have to treat that low and that could become a high, and that causes all kinds of issues. So I generally tell people, if you've tried it and you love it, then you should absolutely do it. But if it's something you think you should do, or you think it's something that's going to help you with weight loss, we don't necessarily recommend it. And you also have to remember, the secret to intermittent fasting in terms of weight loss is the secret of any diet. It creates a calorie deficit. If you don't eat from 7 o'clock at night until noon or 1 the next day, you've missed a lot of opportunity to put food in your mouth. And that's the idea behind intermittent fasting, is if I've cut out this huge window of time that I can consume food, I'm probably going to consume less. And that creates a deficit, and then people lose weight, and they think it's some magic, bullet, but it's really not. It's just calorie deficit.
Good. I'm sure that there are so we do fasting at the church from time to time, and sometimes people they're like, oh, I know we're going to go on this fast. And so,
Right.
Excellent. So there are others as well who feel like, okay, if I eat after 6 p.m., that this causes weight gain, kind of a spin-off of our previous question.
Right.
So, eating after 6 p.m. causes weight gain. Is this true? Is it not true? what's the best rule of thumb?
Absolutely not. If you can really eat at any time. Um, we again, it's just kind of math, right? If you eat more than your body needs, it doesn't really have anything else to do with it but store it as fat. That's just the way that the body works. But if you eat at 8 o'clock at night and you still need calories, um, you're not going to gain weight. You need that food. And so yeah, I try to remind people that it's okay. I mean, if you're hungry at 9 o'clock and you want a snack, then the body doesn't ask for food unless it needs it. So feed yourself. Enjoy a snack before you go to bed, and don't worry that it's going to cause you to gain weight.
There are, I'm sure that there's others right now who are probably saying, oh, hey, well, as a nutritionist, they want to know what kind of foods could they eat to help burn fat, because that's probably an issue that they're considering. So, what would you suggest the kind of foods that would help to burn fat?
Well, unfortunately, there are no foods that specifically burn fat. And really, here's the thing, and this is kind of a myth that I think a lot of people hear. They'll jump on a machine and they'll say, "Oh, I gotta be in the fat burning zone because I need to burn fat." But really, your body burns two fuels. It burns carbs and it burns fat. And the funny thing is, you burn mostly fat as your fuel source when you're at rest. As exercise intensity goes up, you actually burn more energy from carbohydrates. So if the recommendation was to make your body burn fat, then we just have people sitting around all day, and we know we don't tell them to do that, right? So I remind people that it's not the fuel you're burning, it's your overall calorie deficit that you create, or the calories that you burn. And in the same kind of sense, there's also really no foods that are going to rev up your metabolism so much. You might get a little extra spark from some really hot peppers, or maybe a little extra help from cinnamon, but not really in the way that you're going to tell a huge difference.
Got you. That's great to hear. Yeah, that's really important to hear. So there are probably as a nutritionist, you probably hear all kinds, and I see you've done that today. There's a number of things that have been debunked because there are these thoughts, these ideas that we have in our head, and so what. Well, first, before I get to the debunking, let me ask you about the calorie deficit, because you've mentioned it a couple of times, and there are probably those who are listening right now who probably want you to elaborate or to further explain. So, what do you mean by calorie deficit, so they'll have a kind of a working understanding as to what that means?
So if someone wants to create a calorie deficit, it means that they have to know what's their baseline calories, right? So generally, I tell people, if you know that you have maintained your weight for a fairly long time, then you could track your calories for a few days, and then that would be your maintenance, right? So if that person wanted to be in a calorie deficit, they would just subtract from that number. And general rule is for people to lose weight in a slower, more sustainable weight. You wouldn't want to, cut more than say 250 or so to 300 calories back at a time, and that would create that deficit. So it's different for everybody. It's sort of based on where you sit for maintenance calories. But normally I tell people it's pretty easy. We all know if we're in maintenance, if we're losing or we're gaining. So you can tell, okay, I'm gaining weight, then so I'm eating more than my body needs, or I'm losing weight, so I am in a deficit, right? Like people can tell. But if you're just sort of sitting at neutral, then if you want to be in a calorie deficit, then you just figure that number out, and then you can subtract.
That's good, excellent. Let me ask you also this question. So people say, you need to eat, three main meals a day, and then there are people who are probably on here, they grew up hearing that, there's three
Uh-huh.
main meals a day, you got to eat that. And then there are those who say, well, no, you need to eat the smaller meals, throughout the day. And so what should we do? Is it three big meals, and then you also heard, hey, breakfast should be the biggest meal of the day.
Right.
So what really is the best rule of thumb? What should we be doing?
Well, it's funny when folks ask me about 3 meals a day, I'm like, I wish I knew where it came from. I'm sure it has something to do with like money, consumerism in some way, trying to get us to buy a product. But there's no quote unquote right way or meal pattern. But there are ways that the body wants to be fed, right? So what we know from just a physiological perspective is when you eat, based on the amount of food that you eat and that mix of nutrients that you consume, your body is going to digest that food within, say, a 3 to 5, maybe 6 if it's a really high fat, high protein meal, but about 3 to 5 hours, you're going to digest that food. So, and if it's smaller and it's more of a snack, then it's probably only going to be maybe 2 or 3 hours. So when you think about that, I just tell folks, think about what your preference is, but make sure you're feeding your body consistently. So if you like to have a big breakfast, that might hold you 4 hours wherever you are 4 hours later. Maybe then you'll do a snack. So now in about 2 or 3 hours, you need to eat again. And hopefully your body will be telling you and giving you those cues. But I think one of the best pieces of advice I can give people is eating consistently through the day. I think when I worked at Student Health, one of the biggest issues with students is they would not eat all day long, and then they would come home and they would just binge on everything and feel terrible. And I was like, how do you expect not to do that? You put your body into this absolute panic that it's not going to get fed, And I remind people, your body is so incredibly smart. You're not going to crave a salad when you're starving. Your body craves sugar. It knows that's the quickest thing to digest and get your blood sugar back up. So you're going to crave that cookie because the body's smart. So making sure that you're feeding yourself when you feel that gentle hunger. And again, sometimes that takes taking out a piece of paper or a journal or something and, figuring out what your meal pattern is and what really works for you. And again, some people it is 3 meals. Some people it's small snacks. Some people it's a combination of both. But I highly recommend people find out what really works best for them.
So is breakfast uh, is breakfast the most important meal of the day? And then if so, what time? Because there are those who say it's got to be at a certain time of the day. You got to get that
Right.
in, but everybody doesn't eat well in the morning or early morning time. So what's really the truth concerning that?
Well, I usually tell people, there are a lot of people that their stomachs get them up in the morning, they are ready to go, and then there are some people that the idea of eating first thing in the morning just makes their stomach turn. I usually tell people, if you are one of those folks that gets up and you're hungry, of course, eat breakfast and then go on with your day. If you are a person that wakes up and you are not physically hungry, then normally the body likes to be fed about 2 to 3 hours after waking. So I would check in. I would see, am I getting hungry within those 2 to 3 hours? If not, by that third hour, I would probably eat something because most likely you've trained your stomach to just kind of turn off that hunger cue. Because again, if we don't respond to it, the body again says, well, forget it. I'm not going to give it, But I do find that people have other subtle cues, like maybe a dull headache, or they feel tired and a little lethargic, or they just don't feel too great. And a lot of times that's those subtle hunger cues coming out instead of your stomach growling. So yeah, I tell people experiment with it, but don't feel like you have to eat first thing in the morning if it's just not your thing. But within 2 to 3 hours, I would have a little something.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to circle back to the question I was getting ready to ask you. You already debunked a number of myths that people have, and so thank you for sharing. We appreciate your professionalism and your education, because for a lot of us, we're learning through what we read from an article, and we make
Mhm.
that article
Right,
our measure of truth, and
right.
or so and so said this, and so that it has to be
Uh-huh,
this way. So I
right.
thank you for having done the research and to help us out today. I really appreciate that. Can you, what other myths would you like to debunk today? Because we're ready for it, by the way. So thank you.
All right. Well, I'll tell you a few. So one very quick would be, and I think most people are moving away from this, or at least I hope they are, is thinking that coconut oil is this panacea, cure all. Coconut is a very, very saturated fat. It absolutely raises your cholesterol. It raises your LDL cholesterol. If you love it, use it like you would butter, which is also saturated fat and in smaller amounts. But the best way to use coconut oil, I think, is, to rub it on my skin if it's dry. That's kind of the best advice I can give there. But it's a saturated fat, and it's just, again, it's one of those things that's been blown way out of proportion, and it's not very good for us. The other thing is carbs. Carbs are not something to not be eaten. And as I mentioned at the beginning, carbs have a lot of nuance. It's not, either I eat them or I don't. We really have to talk to people about that whole spectrum of what a carbohydrate is. And if someone goes to the doctor and their blood glucose is high, and the doctor says you need to watch your carbs, and then they go and cut them all out, then they're cutting out fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans and all these things that have vitamins and minerals and fiber that's so good for us. And so that's one thing, is I think every few decades, there's one macronutrient that becomes sort of the evil one. It used to be fat, and now I think it's carbs. And so we just want people to know that there's a reason why the recommendation is to eat, half of your calories from carbohydrates, because they are so important to us. And yeah, they don't have to be excluded from your diet. You can still manage your weight. You can still manage your diabetes and be healthy while still eating carbohydrates.
My dad, he still thinks that pineapple juice is the panacea for everything. So,
Oh gosh.
so
Yeah.
you're sick, get some pineapple juice. So
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever you got, you get some pineapple juice. It'll take care of that
Sure
right
for
away.
everything.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely. So my last question for you tonight, and you've been so helpful. So thank you so much. What advice would you give someone if they said, "I just want to eat healthy"? They're not really trying to lose weight or anything. They just want to eat healthy. What advice would you give that person?
I think one of the easiest things that we can do, one of the easiest sort of blanket statements that I can give people is increase your fiber intake. So the recommendation for fiber is about somewhere between 20 and 30 grams for most folks. Um, and if people are eating enough fiber, then that means that they're eating fruits and vegetables, they're eating beans, they're eating all the whole grains, they're eating nuts and seeds. So they have to bring all of these foods that we know are so healthy into their diet to be able to eat enough fiber. So I think it's a fun little challenge to take a day and see how close you are to the recommended amount of fiber. It's pretty humbling for most folks, because you think you're maybe getting a little bit, but then you have to go snoop around for things that really have a lot of fiber. Beans are an excellent source of fiber. And so again, if someone's trying to eat more meatless meals, subbing out their ground beef or their chicken for beans, they're getting about 9 grams of fiber in a serving. So The only disclaimer I will give is fiber is sort of like a sponge. So it soaks up water, which means it'll soak up that water in your gut. So I remind people, if you realize, say, you're only eating 3 grams of fiber, don't jump to 20. Go slow to prevent, some upset stomach, and make sure you're increasing your water while you increase your fiber. But fiber is good for blood glucose control. It's good for weight maintenance. It helps to lower your cholesterol. And also, fiber is what we call a prebiotic. So it's food for that gut bacteria that's so healthy and so good for us, that those probiotics that live in our gut that do all the things we haven't even figured out they do yet. So you got to feed them to keep them healthy. And that's actually what foods that are rich in fiber do, is they provide the food for that healthy gut bacteria we have. So that's a very kind of blanket sort of thing. I think that, along with consistent meals, because those are the two things I see, that's where I would tell someone to start. And I would say, don't make it too hard. When you sit down to eat, and you want to create a plate, you say, I need a whole grain, I need a protein source, I need a fruit or a veggie, right? And that's it, and just eat that consistently through the day. And if you don't always get that, it's perfectly fine, because our bodies are resilient, and it's not what we do it's not what we do occasionally, it's what we do every day. And working with patients over the years, I'm a firm believer that if you give your body an inch, it will take a mile. And so just small changes, adding, a little bit more fiber, adding some more fruits and veggies, subbing out some of our our white pasta or our white bread for whole grain sources. The body takes that and, does what it's supposed to do with it.
Good, good. Is there any nutritional advice that you would give during this pandemic COVID season? Because there's somebody, they may be saying, well, hey, I need to boost my immune system, or the antibodies, and so what can I do right now in this pandemic?
Well, I think that we want people to recognize that, especially with COVID, you don't want to take any excess supplements, really, because you don't want to cause a greater immune response, because that's what COVID kind of does. So what we want people to do is just focus on eating foods that are just balanced. Like if you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're getting vitamin C. If you're eating, whole grains, you're getting all these minerals, you're getting potassium, you're getting magnesium. I think that in terms of specific vitamins and minerals, there's a little bit of data out there about vitamin D. And that is definitely one of the vitamins that I always remind folks to get tested when you go to a doctor, because it's not on a normal panel. Like if you get a just typical blood work, it's not there. You have to ask for it. But that is something that a lot of people are deficient in. And so I always, remind folks, that might be something, if somebody's going to the doctor, they might ask their doctor to maybe check their vitamin D levels.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Courtney, if you just hold on for a moment, we're going to prepare to close out, and then
Sure.
we'll have you come back and to give some final remarks.
Okay.
I know you guys were extremely blessed by this conversation. I know you have also equally found it insightful. And so we are just deeply appreciative to Courtney for taking the time, to come and share with us, and to kind of help us, guide us in the right path, and to clarify some questions that perhaps that we had. And so this has been real important. I want to take a moment just to we want to pray and just to give thanks to God. Father, we are grateful. You're an amazing God. We really appreciate just the time of information to inspire us, to help us to be, to understand that this body is a temple that you've given unto us, and that we will honor you through our daily life. Thank you for Courtney. Thank you, Lord, for what you've placed inside of her. We pray, God, your choices, blessings upon her for taking the time just to be able to share with us today. Bless our listening audience, that, Lord, that they will not only just receive the information today, but they'll apply it to their day-to-day lives. We give you thanks. We'll bless you always in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right. We're going to, hey, it's really been great. And I am just so grateful, to have had the opportunity to be able to talk with Courtney. And I know you guys were blessed by the exchange. It's this kind of stuff that helps us live day to day and have be more resourceful, more impactful, and just be more aware of day to day. I want you to join me right now and let's participate in our giving. And here are your ways to give. Okay, your ways to give. You can give by Cash App to the church, $ZT Cares, number 3 at the end. You can give by Venmo, it's the @ ZT Cares. Or you can call in 410-725-8730, and someone will receive the call and then text you back a receipt. You can also mail your gift in the Zion Temple Church, 1304 Business and Away, Edgewood 21040. Again, your ways to give are Cash App, Venmo, you can call, or also you can mail your gift into the church. Hey, guys, Courtney has been amazing tonight, and we so appreciate her taking the time to impart to us and to share with us. On your screen, you can see here are your ways to your way to be a blessing to Courtney. So real quickly, what you want to do is, if you have PayPal, just screenshot that email address real quickly. It's DROB, and I believe that is is that 4? Yes, it's 49999 at gmail.com. So that's so that's DROB 9999 at gmail.com. Now, there is somebody who is saying right now, but yeah, I hear you, Pastor, but I don't have. I want to just share my love with Courtney because she's a true blessing to me, and I don't have PayPal. Hey, here's what you do. You can, the church's giving platforms. So if you want to bless Courtney, then you can just give to the church. Make sure you put in the memo section. You can put the nutrition. You can put Courtney. You can put for a speaker. It's entirely, just let us know specifically that you want those funds to go directly to Courtney. We will make sure that collectively, then all that comes in through those platforms, especially for Courtney, we're going to make sure that she gets that. Well, we can't pay her for this invaluable information, but we can sure enough let her know how much we appreciate her taking the time to share with us. So thank you guys for doing that. Hey, here's our upcoming announcement so you know what's going to take place. On Thursday from 12 p.m. To 2 p.m., 12 noon until 2 p.m. is our food giveaway. Again, that is on Thursday. From 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. is our food giveaway. So let your friends, your family know that it's all free. All they got to do is just come up. They don't even have to get out of the car. Someone will be there to service them. All social distancing. And why have to pay for food when we want to give it away and be a blessing to someone, especially during these times when there's such an economic crisis and unemployment is so high. We want to be a blessing to others and let them know and that we're thinking about them. So on this Thursday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. is our food giveaway. There's prayer on Saturday at 10 a.m. and also our morning worship service on Sunday at 10 a.m. as well. So looking forward to that. Hey, and guess what? Can you believe it? March is almost here. I mean, where has this year gone? Like we already went through January, February is almost over. So March the 7th will be our next in-person service. Pardon me. Now our next in-person service on March the 7th, because as you guys know, all the social protocol, the protocols are in place for social distancing, sanitation. So make sure you're aware of that. Then on March the 28th, because we only do the one in-person service per month, but March 28th. It's going to be warm enough, and hey, it's going to be like 50s and 50-some degrees for the next several days. Looking forward to that, especially after being in the 20s. So on March 28th, parking lot worship will begin for this year, and so looking forward to that, to be able to be outside. And then that's on Palm Sunday, of course, and April the 4th is Resurrection Sunday, also known as Easter Sunday. We'll be outside again for parking lot worship, so looking forward to being able to come out and see you guys, especially in the car, because I'm always looking at cameras, so it's going to be great to actually see you. And then hear those horns honking and all that good stuff. So yeah, thank you guys for remembering that. Hey, have you had a chance to give as of yet? Here are your ways to give. You can give by Cash App, $CT Cares, by Venmo @CT Cares. You can also call in 410-725-8730, or you can as well mail it in Design Temple Church, 13204, Business and Away, Edgewood, Maryland, 21040. Make sure you are blessing the Courtney. She has been invaluable to us, and so we want to make sure that we show her our appreciation. You can do that by giving through PayPal, DROB9999@gmail.com. Now again, if you don't have PayPal, that is absolutely okay. All you got to do is just give through your normal platforms of the church. We will convert that and make sure that Courtney gets that, because again, she has been a tremendous blessing to us. We want to make sure that we show her that. Again, thank you guys for being a part of this session tonight. I know that you were deeply blessed. Courtney, thank you. Thank you for joining us on today, and I really do appreciate all that you've had to share with our listening audience. We will take this information and definitely put it into good use. I'm sure there will be several others who will take this on the replay and kind of watch it over again just to kind of absorb everything that you were saying. And so thank you for that. You may want to give some final remarks to those who are on the listening audience.
Sure. Well, I just want to say thank y'all so much for tuning in, and I hope it has been really valuable information. And I know sometimes if your brain is anything like mine, it takes a little bit of time for me to catch up sometimes. So if there's a question that anybody has later, LaMont, you are welcome to email me, and I will continue to answer any question. And if it's sparked the need for somebody to feel like they need to reach out to a dietitian, dietitians, we're a pretty tight group, so I can even help in Maryland to help somebody find a really good dietitian, and I'd be happy to do that to help them if they need some help with their relationship with food.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for offering your services. We really definitely appreciate that. Well, guys, it's been great hanging out with you all on tonight. Again, we really do appreciate each one of you being a part of this session. Now may the Lord bless you, keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, Lord, be gracious unto you, lift up his countenance, and give you peace. Hey, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the evening, and we will see you all on... well, guys, I'll see you on camera on Sunday, all right? Have a wonderful rest of the night. All right, bye-bye.
You've got to rise above how you feel. It's going to be up to you to take authority over your mind and your emotions. And a lot of times we get frustrated because things seem to be moving too slowly. And when that happens, we start to question whether or not what we really want will ever happen for us. Well, it will happen if you refuse to allow fear and impatience to deprive you of what you deserve. It will happen if you don't allow moments of frustration to guide your decisions.
Think about all the people you know in life and say, man, I wish I didn't quit on school. I hate I dropped out. I wish I didn't get divorced. I hate I gave up. I wish I didn't quit the football team because I could have been in the NFL. I wish I didn't quit. I wish I acted better. I wish I didn't get kicked out of school. I wish I didn't give up on it. I wish. That is regret.
Never settle.
There's still time. Never settle. There's still time. What are you working on right now? Because sometimes in life, all you got is that one thing. God gave you one thing to do. That's all you got is that one thing. I know life will knock you down. I know life can be tough, but you are on a journey. When you settle, you will always have regret on what could have been. what should have been. I'm going to say these two powerful words one more time. And I want you to hear me and get them in your spirit. Never settle.